Hello and welcome to Extreme Gameplays, where I play games stylishly. Today, I feel like talking about Metal Gear. Okay, that impression was really bad. Guys, today's video is just a simple video where I sit down and talk about Metal Gear Solid, the entire world of Metal Gear. You all are familiar with it. So this is gonna be a video with no footage really on screen, just me purely talking. I felt like adding this decoration in the background. Look, you can even change the color of the menu of this masterpiece of a game. But back to the green one, please. That's my favorite there. The thing is, today I wanted to talk about Metal Gear Solid. So first of all, I want to talk about my, how I got into it. And let's just get right into that right now. I started Metal Gear back like 6 months ago, I would say 7 months ago. I played through the entirety of the games: Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, and finally V, Ground Zeroes. I did play Metal Gear Rising as well, but I'm not gonna talk that much about Metal Gear Rising, since it's a whole different world, a whole different genre. But like, it kept the DNA of Metal Gear, some cute things like the stealth, like the C boxes, some stuff that Metal Gear Solid always had. Is still there as a DNA part of the game, but I'm not gonna dive deep into Rising really, because Rising is a whole different world, the hack and slash world. Which, it gets me to my next point on why I got into Metal Gear Solid. So back like 7 months ago, I would say, not like before even that, I was going through some really horrible stuff in my life. So what I decided to do was to change my routine and how I approach games. So usually it was a kind of safe zone of a routine where I would only play hack and slash games, God of War, Devil May Cry, every kind of hack and slash game, or even action games sometimes, mainly Resident Evil here and there. Sometimes Resident Evil 4 is an action game, you know how it is. Some survival horrors here and there, but for a long time it stayed as a hack and slash and action games, shooters like Doom only. That's when I just decided to, kind of change the pace with that whole thing. I was like, okay, let's change genres for once. And I remember at the time a lot of buzz was going around for the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection as well, and the Metal Gear Solid Delta reveal that happened at the time. And so I was like, okay, this is my perfect opportunity to change my routine and how I play games, the games that I play and all that. I'm gonna stop playing hack and slash all the time, and I'm gonna kind of change the genre to something that I haven't been familiar with for a long time. I say for a long time because I have played Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes back in 2015. Anyways, I'll get to that in a second. So I was like, let's try Metal Gear Solid. Everyone loves it. Everyone says it's a very nice narrative of a game, a very nice gameplay mechanics of a game. It's like a game franchise that has it all. The gameplay, the narrative, the music, the presentation, and the goofiness of Japan trying to appeal to the West. That's like the cutest thing in my whole life right now. I really love Japan just trying to appeal to the West. There's a certain kind of cuteness behind everything that happens in the narrative and the story and the characters and all that. But yeah, so like then was the time I was like, okay, I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna start with Metal Gear Solid 1, which I played on my Vita. And then I went to Metal Gear Solid 2, and oh my god. And then Metal Gear Solid 3, all on my PS Vita. Same with Peace Walker, but I didn't play Peace Walker yet. I played Metal Gear Solid 4 on my PS3, which I got this. Now I have this as decoration right here, you might see it, and I just have it as a collectible because I'll tell you why in just a second. So I got this disc. I was in the middle of my Metal Gear Solid 2 walkthrough, which I'll get into how I played the walkthroughs of these games and all that, and what I went through, the feelings I went through while playing each game in a minute. But just for now, this disc right here, it kind of worked on my PS3. It worked pretty good. I had just fixed my PS3's disc drive, to play God of War 3's Japan version, the one you see hanged up right up there. But yeah, I took this disc back and I just put it aside. I didn't play it. I waited to finish Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and then I started this, and it worked fine for like the first 2 hours of the game, and then the game crashed. The installing didn't happen apparently. There's an install screen on the PS3 that should happen, but it didn't work with this. So I had to buy it digitally, which thank God it was still available. I love Metal Gear Solid 4. So yeah, fast forward after finishing Metal Gear Solid 4 and going through all sorts of emotions with Metal Gear Solid 4, as I do with every other Metal Gear. I then played Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, and then I'm gonna get into the story of that as well. And then finally finished Metal Gear Solid 5, the Phantom Pain, the PP, the Phantom Penis, yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. What a banger of a game and a whole franchise as a whole. I did play Metal Gear Rising as I was playing Metal Gear Solid V as well at the same time, just to make that clear. That was a quick kind of TLDR on the games that I played. I played all of them in release order, I believe. So yeah, I think I played all of them in release order. So a couple of minutes ago, I did mention something about Metal Gear Solid V Ground Zeroes and how I used to play it on my Xbox 360 back in 2015, way back. Like that's like a decade ago. Oh my god, 2015 is a decade ago. Anyways, at the time I wasn't familiar with the Metal Gear world. At the time, it was just a time of me trying games, every kind of game, open world games, closed world games, you know how it is, you know the opposite of open world games, don't you? And so Metal Gear Solid V, I played it not knowing anything about the world of Metal Gear. I played it not knowing anything about the plot, not even knowing English to the fullest extent that I know right now. So I only played it for funsies, and I couldn't even get through the first mission. But I did grind the game for like a week. I don't know how I still would never be able to finish the first mission. I guess you just had to do a lot of investigating and all that weird kind of stuff with the tapes and all that while Miller talks to you and spoils the whole puzzle for you. At the time, I didn't know it. Now I knew it. When I went back to it, it was a whole different world for me. When I played Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, it was like, man, I played this as my first Metal Gear. It's time to go into it right now with all my knowledge of Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker. Which was a surreal experience. That was really, really good. Like, I'm glad it all went full circle. And I finally came back to Ground Zeroes and played it. And then I followed it up with the Phantom Pain, which I have mixed feelings about. But it's mostly positive, man. By the end, it's just positive. Come on. So now, with all the talking out of the way, time for some more talking. So, it started with Metal Gear Solid 1 on my PS Vita. I played it through the PSP emulator, I got into it, and instantly, the second I loaded the game, there was some type of oomph, some type of girth behind the game, if you... Like, here's the thing, I have played Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 that are PS1 games. I have played some other PS1 games and all that, but man... This was a PS1 game? I never have these types of conversations with myself about games and all that. You know, when I'm experiencing a great game, I never go, damn, this was a PS2 game? Because motherfucker, art is art, however, whenever, wherever. So, I never say that and all that, but for this one, I legit had to say that. Because, like, I have played Resident Evil 3 that I believe looked very, very good. Even 2, I believe 2 looked better than 3. On my PS Vita, which is still a PS1 game and all that. I never thought the PS1 could be pushed this far. And this game just kept introducing new things, giving me new tools, new weapons, new ways to approach, and just weird stuff like the snow footsteps and all that, even though it got used only once in the entire game. Metal Gear Solid 1 made me feel like I stepped into a portal back to the year it released. I forgot the year it released. It made me feel like I just jumped into that portal, and then in that portal I went into another portal that is supposed to be 2050, where, you know, people back then, I'm sure people back then thought of that as the future and all that. It just felt like a revolution and evolution of gaming, and it truly was that. That was on the gameplay side, which stayed on until the very end. The game kept introducing new stuff, awesome boss fight, amazing narrative stuff, which gets me to my next point. The narrative. This game's story, the characters, it's all so goofy, serious, lovely, in all the best ways that Japan can ever, you know, appeal to the West. Here's the thing, so like they try to appeal to the West by making this action game like James Bond and all that, which by Metal Gear Solid 3, man, that Metal Gear Solid 3 is the best James Bond movie, is the best James Bond soundtrack, is the best James Bond game if it ever even had a game. I believe there was a game back in the PS2 days. And so like for me, the story, this appeal that it wanted to have for the West is what made it so goofy and funny and all that. Like these guys were doing some things, Kojima was doing some things that actual Western devs and writers wouldn't do. It was just so cute to witness it happen in real time in Metal Gear Solid 1. The characters, the way they talk, the weird kind of, you know, cliches that would happen every here and there, the funny codec calls, the serious codec calls, the tension rising codec calls. Those were really something I hugely liked about Metal Gear Solid 1. I kept that feeling up the whole time that I was playing it and all that. I have a friend called, you know, Zig. I talked to him on Discord and all that about Metal Gear Solid. There are other people that I know that know Metal Gear Solid, but he seems to know Metal Gear Solid the most. So throughout the whole game as I was going, I was talking to him about it. And I was just keep on talking more and more, loving the game even more. And so that passion that I have for Metal Gear Solid, it kept on happening, it kept on going until the very end. I kept talking to friends about it. Kept talking to Dante, the asshole, about it. it just never ended. It kept giving. It was very, very good. And like the plot, I didn't care enough to, you know, dive very deep and nitpick about the plot. It was enough. It was very, very good. Amazing. Like it was game design 101. It's a game that is trying to push a narrative, but it also allows you to skip cutscenes and skip all the things and all that. That makes you want to be able to replay it. Like it allows you to replay it. It does not gatekeep you from replaying it with like unskippable codec calls, for example. Imagine that, because you listen to codec calls and you listen to the story happen and all that way more than you play the game. Imagine if you wanted to revisit the game being unable to replay the game. And man, again, the mechanics are very, very good. Even though I haven't played the VR missions to truly appreciate all the mechanics and all that, but that's besides the point. I have only replayed one Metal Gear Solid so far, and I replayed it because I just love that game so much. It's like in my top 5 games of all time, if I'm being honest. So I spoke about replayability, and speaking on that matter comes in Metal Gear Solid 2. So I spoke about replayability, and speaking on that matter of replayability enters Metal Gear Solid 2. And oh man, I did not have the bad feelings people had about this game when it first released. First of all, the first thing I ever, everyone kind of noticed this. Come on, let's be honest. The first hangar mission where you play as Snake, right? Solid Snake, is the same protagonist from the first game and all that. That first mission alone just shows you how everything is upgraded right now. Everything you saw in Metal Gear Solid 1 is here and then even upgraded further, and then you have even new stuff. Like you would hang over, there was some, like there would be a cliff you could kind of hang over to hide from the enemies. Then you can get back up. You could even drop from that cliff and hang on to another one. And they're not even called cliffs. I don't know what they called, like the hangar or something, but like you get my point. Metal Gear Solid 2 came in and just smashed everything that Metal Gear Solid 1 did, making me not even imagine myself revisiting Metal Gear Solid 1 unless just to like do a full revisit for the story and everything as a full package. But like as a gameplay revisit, oh my god, what Metal Gear Solid 2 added. So it added the first person shooting. Shooting is way better in this game. It added like, the graphics are obviously way better. Like there are details in this game that they shouldn't be there. The ice melting on the desk should not be in a 2001 game. It just should not be there. And like there are billions of other details that I like right now without a script, I don't even know where to begin with the upgrades and with the things they added, with the details they added. And, I'm still gonna talk about the gameplay for now, which is just, oh my god, it's so good. The peeking behind a corner where you peek, which is this thing that stayed all the way until Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain. Such a nice change. You stay behind a wall, you kind of lean down a little further. Snake does a little of this, where he sees behind him a little further. And I still say Snake because it's at the start. Come on, be honest. The rain that is raining, the effects behind everything, the guards and their vision and all that. And there's a funny thing about Metal Gear Solid 2 that I did. So while playing, I didn't know that you could interact with the computers to get the UAV kind of type of map on the upper right screen to kind of see the guards and where they are and how their full vision of view and all that. So when I did play the game, I didn't know that you have to interact with every computer. So I interacted with some computers while leaving a lot of the important computers to interact with, rendering me not even having the map to see the enemies, which kind of was a good thing. It kind of enhanced the gameplay experience for me. It turned into a much more tense gameplay experience for me, like all the stealth and all that. And the thing about Metal Gear Solid 2 is that the moment this one clicks, the gameplay loop is way too different than Metal Gear Solid 1. This one, and the second that it clicks, it just has to click with you when it comes to gameplay. You know it clicks, and you know you can never let go of Metal Gear as a whole, as a franchise, ever again after it clicks with you. The moment you get into a tense encounter one time where you really have fun and the story does not interrupt you like a fucking your mother's a fat whore bitch, let me play. The moment it clicks with you like in one awesome encounter, that's it. You can never let go of Metal Gear and you will have to finish it no matter what. And this is what happened to me with this game. This gets me to the narrative part of all that. I just talked about all the upgrades and all that. Everything from Metal Gear Solid 1 is in here, expanded to the fullest. Like they fucking just went all out. Everything is front and center. Everything is upgraded. Everything is futuristic and much better and all that. Like the codec, honestly, the codec is not my favorite. I'm gonna have to say, like my favorite codec would have to be, I would say it would have to be Metal Gear Solid 1. That just beautiful. Either 1 or 3. Actually 3 for a lot more reasons. But if we're talking design, Metal Gear Solid 1 is my favorite. It looks very, very good. While 2 just looks like weird 3D character model stalking, but it's still it has its own charm, which is a huge thing about Metal Gear Solid. Every game has its own specific charm. So while I was dick riding the gameplay stuff back there, comes in the narrative. The first biggest problem a lot of people had, or maybe even 99% of the fans had, my god, Raiden. So Raiden replacing Snake and all that. Of course, by the end there's a huge twist in the story that kind of makes this all worth it, believe me. Which I believe a lot of people have gone into the acceptance part of Metal Gear Solid 2. They don't really despise it as much right now, especially even back then. When Metal Gear Solid 3 happened, everybody kind of forgave the whole situation with Metal Gear Solid 2. Some people didn't forget, some people are still kind of butthurt about not being able to play as Snake throughout the entire game, but there are huge reasons. Come on, Snake is just your playable character. You still see Snake in the story and all that when it happens. And the narrative, my biggest issue with it, and I even talked to Zig about all this the entire time. I would bitch about this game the whole time I was playing it. The game kept interrupting me. The game was just about to get a good, adrenaline rush of going steady at a steady rate. Then it would stop with a huge lore dump, with a huge story dump. Long codex, long story dump, long codec. Like, it never stopped. It never allowed me to fully get into the game. All the way until I reached the part where, there's a part that happens. It's not a huge spoiler, come on. But you get into a boss fight with a fat guy. Okay, that's all that I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna spoil a lot of it. You get into that part, and kind of from that part on, when the game clicks, when the map kind of clicks with you, the whole segment before fighting that fat guy, you have to do some stuff around the entire map area, which is an iconic area for me right now. You have to defuse bombs and all that. And all of that is happening and all that, right? And in there's a moment that it clicks with you. You're going a solid 30 minutes of gameplay without all of that happening. Like the midway point from there, all the way until you fight a fat guy near the end. From there on, the game kind of clicked with me, and I could never let it go. From there on, I got hooked into the story, right? Because this is what you have to do as a storyteller. You gotta kind of hook the players into what's happening and all that. And Kojima does an amazing job with this one. Don't get me wrong, but God, the pacing of the cutscenes. They kept on interrupting. And honestly, I'm not a game director. I don't know a fix to all this. I don't know how to fix this huge, kind of pacing issues that this game had and all that. But it was a glaring issue for me. It kept me away from the game. It made me take, I think 2 months just for Metal Gear Solid 2 to finish. But the moment it kind of clicked with me, I kept on playing it more and more on my PS Vita, which is a very, very good thing. Matter of fact, I can even change this, but I just love this Metal Gear Solid 3 pause menu as a background while I'm talking about the games and all that. So let's just keep it as Metal Gear Solid 3. But I played it on my PS Vita and it was very, very good. Witnessing the story, witnessing the amazing plot near the end that just justifies everything. I don't care. It justifies everything. It justifies why you're playing as Raiden. There are reasons why things are not the same way they used to before. There are reasons for everything. There are reasons that just builds up on a sequel unintentionally, because I believe Kojima wanted to end it here. Metal Gear Solid 2 was just so good. Oh my god. It's just the same kind of setting as Metal Gear Solid 1, especially later on when you play as Raiden, after the hangar mission with the Solid Snake. It's the same kind of world as Metal Gear Solid 1. Why? Because it's around the same era as Metal Gear Solid 1, right? Then came in my favorite game of all time. This game, Metal Gear Solid 3, which is on the screen right now. Metal Gear Solid 3 is in my top 5 games of all time. This game came in while Metal Gear Solid 2 came in and made upgrades to literally everything and all that. That's awesome. Metal Gear Solid 3 comes in and it smashed it on the gameplay front, having way more stuff than Metal Gear Solid 2, and it refined Metal Gear Solid 2. For example, first person used to be the character holding the gun like this, and Metal Gear Solid 3, no, it's actually him aiming through the gun. Like this. I'm Snake right now. And so the whole setting of Metal Gear Solid 3 is different. It's in the Cold War era. It's 1964. You're playing as Big Boss, which, my god, how much this guy looks like Solid Snake. I swear to god, I thought there was some weird time travel, weird ass things in Metal Gear Solid. So at first when I played the game, I was like, yo, I talked to Zig and Dante about the game, and I was like, bro, is this just the same Solid Snake, but he somehow never ages? Because there's a lot of clone talking in Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. I felt like, okay, maybe he's a clone, he never ages and all that. But then, like, they made fun of me in the group chat, as they always do as a sport. And then it kind of clicked with me, okay, I need to let go of this thing. I know his name is Naked Snake, just like the other Snake. This, that, same voice actor, which, oh my god, the voice actor. Metal Gear. No, I can't impersonate it right now. I gotta talk normally, you see. If I talk like this, if I pretend that I'm Snake, I'm not gonna sound like Snake. But I actually do sound like Snake if I want to. This game came out after a time where everybody hated Metal Gear Solid 2. And it just bugs me so much because Metal Gear Solid 2 was such a fantastic masterpiece of a game, but everyone hated it at the start. I'm sure people love it and appreciate it a lot more right now. But anyways, I digress. Metal Gear Solid 3. The presentation, the fucking music, the graphics, the details, just like Metal Gear Solid 2, even more details. The gameplay mechanics, oh my god, this makes it my favorite. The whole vibe and atmosphere of the game, the approach, the story, oh my god, this is the perfect Metal Gear game. This is the perfect video game. There are flaws with the game, but like, I don't know where to start talking about Metal Gear Solid 3. I guess this is a good time to start talking about the presentation, like a review type of presentation and all that, but I'm not gonna dive deep. I'm not gonna spoil it all. You owe yourself this experience. Do not spoil this game for yourself. You owe yourself every single second of Metal Gear Solid 3, or like the whole entire franchise as a whole. So like, you enter this game and instantly with this amazing trailer, like you see this right here. This instantly went into my heart, and then the trailer after that plays if you don't skip the pause menu and all that. Oh my god, that trailer set the tone so well, and I watched it all because Zig said, make sure to watch the trailers for Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. So I watched the trailers, but I also watched these right here that play right now. And it's just this two snakes vibing in the place and all that while the presentation is happening. Just so James Bondy. I fucking love it so much. Metal Gear Solid 3 just knows how to capture you instantly in the setting. You're instantly big boss. No bullshit. You are big boss. And the thing that I did was that when I started the game, I really liked Metal Gear Solid 2. I thought this was a difficulty thing because I didn't want to mess up with it anything. It was in the middle. It said, I like Metal Gear Solid 1, or, you know, Metal Gear Solid 2, or I like Metal Gear Solid 3. I haven't played 3 yet, so I go with 2. And I load up with a mask that is basically Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2, and the amount of shots this game throws at Raiden is just hilarious. And even the game points it out, you can take out the mask right now, and I take off the mask, and it's my guy, Solid Snake. Until I go a little further, and it turns out this is Naked Snake. Until I go to the very end, and it turns out this is Big Boss. I'm not gonna spoil anything about the story, go ahead and play it. But the presentation of the story, the presentation of the characters, the presentation of the world and everything, it mixes in the goofiness, the weirdness, right? The otherworldly elements of the game, like some of the bosses have some otherworldly stuff, I swear to God. And the goofiness, it mixes the goofiness with this weirdness. And like the goofiness, you have a Ocelot. You get introduced to Ocelot, this young Ocelot that you meet in Metal Gear Solid 1. He's old in Metal Gear Solid 1. You meet him here, he's young and all that, and he's such a badass. He keeps on doing this for some reason. It just has such a weird and awesome charm to it. And then this man just goes meow for some reason. Why? I fucking love it. I stopped asking questions. Look, I stopped asking questions way back in Metal Gear Solid 2. Because I know they're planning all this. The presentation of all the characters, Snake, the boss, Zero, the gal, I don't know, paramedic, yeah. Every character is so diverse. Eva, and this game knows how to appeal to literally me. This game knows how to appeal to every age group, every gender, 2 genders, every kind of, like, it just knows how to appeal. That's why I love so much about it. Like, on one hand, it appeals to the average teenager, or even to me, honestly. I fucking loved it. Come on, it's goofy and funny in all the ways. When Eva introduces herself and you can just press a button in the middle of a cutscene, look at her boobs like that. It's the funniest shit ever. And the thing I loved so much about Metal Gear Solid 3 and why it makes it my favorite, and there are a lot of other reasons to be honest, but like, this is like the biggest reason ever. It's just how human everyone is in this game. It's just Snake in this game just laughs. He does some weird devious smiles here and there. He makes jokes, he laughs, he sees stuff around him. He's way too human compared to Solid Snake that is just a brick. Literally, he's the perfect soldier. He has his emotional moments here and there, but it's nothing like Big Boss. It's nothing like the sadness of Big Boss, or like when it comes to laughing and smiling and all that. It's not like the average, you know, Van Damme or, you know, Sylvester Stallone type Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid 1. No, this guy is actually going through a lot of emotions in Metal Gear Solid 3, and you feel every second of it. You feel it in every other characters as well. Like, there's a character in the game, a woman, I'm not gonna name her. This is like the best way I've ever seen a game, you know, represent women. Like, or humans as a whole, but like, women, like, if I want to talk about a game that represents women in the best of ways, it's gotta be Metal Gear Solid 3. It shows the both dynamics. Like, there's this woman that I just, you know, talked about, Eva, that you stare at her boobs and all that. And then there's that other woman that I'm not gonna name that's just so iconic. The whole franchise gets built around her afterwards and all that. Like, man, the way they represent characters, the way they represent humanity, the way they represent war and all that. It's like the gameplay, it even feeds into the gameplay of all things and all that. Like, it matters if you kill and if you don't kill in all the 3 games that I've mentioned so far, and in all the other games that comes in after, especially later on with Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. There's even an incentive, a further incentive to not kill and actually just make them sleep, or, you know, make them dizzy, fucking CQC their asses to the ground, which gets me to Metal Gear Solid 3, introducing the CQC. Now, melee attacks and grabs were a thing back in Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2. Metal Gear Solid 3 comes in and it introduces the CQC, which I don't know where to begin with this one. So, CQC, it's close quarters combat. You go up to an enemy if you're sprinting, if you, you know, change the analog to directions and press circle and hold circle and all that. Snake grabs them and then by the arm and throws them to the ground. And there's a whole story thing behind that as well, you know, regarding the woman that I just mentioned and Snake. This is still Snake, but it's not Solid Snake. This is the original Naked Snake. That's why he's even called Naked, because he has nothing when he deploys onto the mission. Just to justify the gameplay, of course. But, you know, Naked Snake, he turns into some more other things as you go on in the game. Go ahead and play. It's the best game of all time. It gets me to the CQC talk and all that. And there's that where you instantly knock down an enemy. And from there on, you can even have another type of CQC where you go ahead, go up close to an enemy, you grab him slowly, and then you can do stuff with him. You can either kill him, like literally slit his throat. And on my PS Vita, it was kind of a weird input where I had to kind of slide my finger like this. He would slit his throat as I would do that. But you would instantly feel bad because you feel like a fucking lunatic. Why would you do that? This is just a soldier doing his job. This is war. You're meant to lower the death rate, not increase it. You can do that. You can interrogate him. You can subdue him. Oh my god, hold on a second. Alrighty, we are back better than... Okay, we are back better than ever. Okay, the CQC, I just explained it. It's a whole deep mechanic that even has things to do with the story. It has things to do with a lot of things that Snake learned back then, and then he learned on way later and all that. So CQC is a very important gameplay mechanic that got introduced with Metal Gear Solid 3. It's a very, very nice thing. There is the argument of it making the game easier, but I believe it makes the game fair. That's what it makes the game. That's why it got brought back into all the other Metal Gear Solids that were brought, you know, that we got after Metal Gear Solid 3. It introduces billions of other things into the gameplay. Just when you thought Metal Gear Solid was just supposed to be this stealth and this world where you just have, you know, gray walls all around you, black floors, and just all that, you know, type of color shade and all that, Metal Gear Solid 3 takes you to the jungle. It takes you to a whole new world way back in 1964, back in the Cold War era, in the best ways possible ever. There are just animals all around you. The whole gameplay mechanic of you having to eat to recover your health, having to cure, having to use camouflage. The camouflage system gets introduced here. Like, a lot of systems get introduced in here, and I'm just gonna say one thing. I never thought the day would come where I would enjoy just crawling around in the jungle for hours. I never thought a day would come where just Snake would walk so slowly on the ground like this. Not walk, crawl on the ground and all that, I never thought that they would come where I would enjoy a game where you slowly just crawl around like this. Never. The game does not have crouch walking. There is a version of the game, I believe, on Nintendo, weird ass port that has a crouch walking, but no, that goes against the whole game. This game teaches you to, you know, crawl along the jungle and all that, be stealthy, be safe, be slow, be fast at the same time. You never truly know. This game introduced a lot of other mechanics, like, you know, the cure system. Now, the cure system, I kind of hate it because it happens so often, but I also have another argument against myself whenever this happens, and is that if you get good enough, so basically get good, if you get good enough, you wouldn't have to open the menu so much and all that. But I believe it's still kind of tedious to having to go through the menu so much. I did notice it. I did have it as a critique as I was, you know, reaching the midway point of the game. I was like, okay, come on, I'm opening the menu a lot. I'm opening it to use the camouflage menu. I'm opening it for the cure menu. And by the way, the cures, why are they this fucking deep? Why is it a deep system where you have to use the digestive thing, you have to use bandages, you have to use needles, you have to use all this for a gunshot wound? Just make it simplistic in the remake. That's all you gotta do. Keep the menu. I don't care. The game is just so good with the mechanics that it introduces. Like, I don't know, I may be forgetting, but like, it makes use of the mic in the best of ways. The mic was a thing that got introduced in Metal Gear Solid 2. In here it returns, but it's way more useful, especially for a boss fight, which is gonna be a sniper boss fight. I'm not gonna name him. And then it's just so good. The boss fight is so good. Everything is so good about this game. I don't know where to go and where to end with this game. The game also has upgraded the soldiers. So like, while Snake is stronger, the soldiers are also stronger. They have a wide range of view, a long range of view. They see you from up very far. There is no longer a map. This game comes in and changes everything you know about Metal Gear Solid while keeping everything at the same time in a very weird way. The amount of ways you can hide, the places you can hide, you know, the camouflage play that you can do, the encounters and their diversity. There's an encounter against the Ocelot squad that is very fun if you know how to master it and speedrun it. It's just very fun. The game is very good. The codec screen, the codec calls in this one is my favorite of all time. It's just so good, the way they talk, the way Zero talks, the way Snake talks. There are even jokes that can get made here and there sometimes. Like when you get lost or something, you call Zero for him to give you directions and all that. And he was like, you know where to go, right? And Snake is like, yeah, I know. And then he's like, no, you do not, and all that. You know, he tells you where to go again, but in the most comical, beautiful way ever. He's also a huge James Bond shill. Okay, just go ahead and play the game. I'm not gonna dive deep into the codecs. This is my favorite codec team. This is my favorite codec, like presentation and all that. Very good. I can literally go all day talking about Metal Gear Solid 3, but as I just said, we will be here all day if I go on talking about everything. Talking about the shotgun, talking about the weapons, talking about the tranquilizer, the suppressors, the CQCs, the story, the presentation, the music, the characters, the everything, the goofiness mixed with the weirdness, mixed with the seriousness. All of that is in here. This is the best full package of a game. This game comes in and changes the way cutscenes work as well, where you can just kind of look at specific close details here and there. Metal Gear Solid 3 is just my favorite of all time. It's also in my top 5 games of all time right now. It's a very nice stealth game, very nice action game, very nice game as a whole. I don't know where to go from here. Let's move on to Metal Gear Solid 4. So we move on to Metal Gear Solid 4, and honestly, Metal Gear Solid 4 is a very interesting game to me. Look, I don't really like the way it approached the story with like billions of cutscenes and briefings and codec calls and all that, right? But that is like basically Metal Gear Solid, if you know what I mean. This is like the same, I went through the same experience with this one that I went with Metal Gear Solid 2, but like, with this one, I feel like, hold on, I could change the color of this back to green. I really like the green one. This one kind of brings you back to the Metal Gear Solid 2 days, but this time, I was familiar with the whole thing. I knew this would deliver by the end, and it surely did. Like, it did as I went on. All you have to do when you play Metal Gear Solid is just be patient. I knew this game would deliver. This wasn't the Metal Gear Solid 2 Zesty that didn't know what was going on behind the stages and all that. This was a much more patient Zesty that was playing the game. I went through the game, I knew it would be good, I knew this whole story would pay off by the end, and it kind of did. But this game is just a whole nostalgia fan service type of game. in the best of ways, while it being that and also being a way too futuristic feeling of a game. I don't know what it is. Every time I boot up Metal Gear Solid 4, it's so intricately made. The mechanics, every step, every movement, everything has an oomph to it. It just feels so futuristic, and I'm imagining people that played the game on release and what they felt. I basically went through the same feelings I went through when I played God of War 3 for the first time. God of War 3 was the biggest jump that I've ever seen in video games before. Like back when I played it for the first time. This feels the same. You just get introduced into the game, and it has the shitty piss filter that Resident Evil 4 brought upon the gaming land. But like even beyond that, the depth behind everything, the detail, the gameplay mechanics, the everything, the way the story goes, the way the game begins. Like the game starts and you have fucking television on your game. You can even switch through the channels, and it's some weird kind of the TV you have nowadays basically, which there's something about Metal Gear Solid 2. It predicts the world right now. Same thing with Metal Gear Solid 4 in a very fucked up weird way. Metal Gear Solid 4 just feels so futuristic, if you know what I mean. In the gameplay department, it introduces a lot of things. In the story department, it just tackles a lot of really weird angles. And I just love it for that weirdness. I even replayed it the other day. It's gonna be the next game that I'm gonna replay. Which, by the way, let's go over the replays right now. I'm gonna be back to Metal Gear Solid 4. I played through all the games without having to replay any of them, except for Metal Gear Solid 3. I replayed Metal Gear Solid 3 as my walkthrough of Metal Gear Solid 5 was happening. I love that game so much. I replayed it on the extreme difficulty, which was a really nice gameplay. It kind of made the gameplay shine even further. I just had to replay it. I couldn't just leave it like this and just play Metal Gear Solid 5. No, I had to go back and play it as well. But anyways, back to Metal Gear Solid 4. This game brings back Solid Snake, which is old this time, with a very nice presentation of Snake. I really like this game. I like this game so much. I hate the amount of cutscenes that it has, but you can also skip them on replay walkthroughs, which brings me to the gameplay again right now. The gameplay is everything Metal Gear Solid 3 had, but kind of. Some of things were upgraded, some of things were downgraded, admittedly. Like the camouflage system, for example, which this again brings me back to the whole argument of it being so futuristic, but like, look at this mechanic. You stay near a wall that looks green, for example. You stay for like a second, the suit that the man has just instantly changes into the color of that. Kind of mixes Snake with the thing, making him actually feel like a fucking snake. It is very good. Like it upgraded some of the systems. You're no longer opening menus as much. You have a lot of weird things here and there, like the solid eye, which was a very nice upgrade. You have the little metal gear that you can use as a camera that can go forward and show you the way in the place of old things and all that. Metal Gear Solid 4 has all that, but the sad thing about Metal Gear Solid 4 is that it introduces way too many things but does not give you way too many scenarios to use them. Like there are systems of the war thing, for example, where there are two nations fighting, right? If you take the side of this nation right next to you and actually attack the enemies in front, they will see you as an ally and they will not attack you. Good mechanic, but it's just rarely used. Metal Gear Solid 4 is like, I called it something the other day in my group chat with the friends and all that, and even Zig understood me when I said that. Which, by the way, a huge shout out to Zig. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be completing Metal Gear Solid 2, because I kept on bitching about the game. When does this game explode? When does this game get going? When does this game get going? And he kind of always told me, he tamed the beast inside me, and he was like, just be patient, man. The game will get way better than this. And so yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4, I described it as this. It is the personification of the snow in Metal Gear Solid 1. What do I mean by this? It's kind of a deep meaning. Metal Gear Solid 1 introduces the snow in that first ever mission, right? You're in Shadow Moses. There's the snow where if you have steps, the guard can actually see the steps and he follows you, which, man, Kojima back in the days with the PS1 doing all this, just weird. Anyways, that snow gets introduced there, but never again in the entirety of the game. That whole mechanic of the guard seeing the snow footprints and then following them never gets introduced, right? Metal Gear Solid 4 is that, you know, as a personification as a whole. The game introduces a lot of mechanics, but not enough room to kind of play the mechanics. The game also has some shitty segments that I'm just not gonna excuse anymore, but like, I still love the game, but like, there's a segment where you have to follow someone as a, you have a kind of thing where you turn back into young Snake for some reason, and you have to chase after this guy, but slowly. I think it's in chapter 3 or 2, I don't really know. Like, something like that is just a huge walkie-talkie, if I'm being truly honest. It's a long-ass 10-minute walkie-talkie. But like, yeah, it has weirdness. It has weirdness with its gameplay. It introduces you back to Shadow Moses. but it doesn't give you guards to fight. It gives you some little robots, which I still love. It's still amazing. It still has its own little twist, but like, where's the stealth in this stealth game, right? It is also really, really good with the action. I'm gonna be honest. It has a lot of action spots that even the action spots even get introduced at the start, and it does a good job at the action, but like, I don't know. Like, the game doesn't have enough gameplay. That's all that I'm gonna say for it. But I'm still gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna fully judge it by the end. By the time I replay it, which I'm doing right now. I'm doing a replay of Metal Gear Solid 4. I'm gonna fully judge it by the time I'm done with that. I'm not gonna judge it right now. I'm just gonna say there is not enough gameplay while there is a lot of story and narrative and all that. Which gets me to my point. The story of this game is kind of good. It kind of justifies everything with nanomachines to the point where nanomachines apparently control the soul of a human being. But I'm not gonna dive deeper into that to spoil anything, but like the climactic moments of this game, they just bring you back, man. If you've played Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, everything that happens in 4, you just instantly see the reference. It's very, very well made. It's so fan servicey to the point where it's I even saw a thumbnail the other day of someone making a video about this. The thumbnail said too much fan service turning into fan disservice. Because like, you kept on bringing back old things. Like, even in the cutscenes, there's a button that you can press that reminds you of the old days, and this just overstayed its welcome. Like, it was good for a couple of cutscenes, but it kept on happening throughout all the other cutscenes. It kind of got old quick. But like, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4 is just a huge little thing that just pays homage to literally every other game that came before it, whether in the Solid Snake timeline or in the Big Boss 1964 timeline. It just pays homage, and it's goofy, it's weird in all the weird ways, because like, I believe Kojima didn't want to make it, but he still made it. The game is goofy and weird and serious and non-serious and otherworldly in all the weird ways. It mixes them in a serviceable type of way, I would say. The story is good. The goofiness behind everything is good. Like, I mean, there are some cringe, pain-worthy cringe in the game, like, you know, where there's a guy in the battlefield that has severe diarrhea and he keeps on farting, and man, the moment I remember that, I just want to kill myself in a video game. But yeah, honestly, Metal Gear Solid 4 is a game that I don't know how to talk about. The biggest crime about this game that I'm just gonna critique right now, it's not even a spoiler, it does not have VR missions. A game with so many mechanics, so many stealth things, not having VR missions. A total ass of a crime. Your mother's a fat bitch. Why? This, of all the games that deserve VR missions, this is the game that deserves it. Of all the games, this is the game that deserved VR missions, and it does not have it, and it pisses me off to my core. That's all that I'm gonna say about it. Other than that, I really don't know how to talk about Metal Gear Solid 4. I don't know where to begin, where to end it, what to even talk about. The game is packed with so much story. The game is packed with so much interactivity. I don't even know where to go from here. The game has an AirPod in it. It has an AirPod. If that doesn't speak futuristic for you, I don't know what does. I swear to God, go ahead right now, play it in like right now, 2024. This game will still feel futuristic. It's just weird that we have a game like this. It breaks the fourth wall in all the weird ways, just like other Metal Gears as well. But like, this one just breaks it in a very weird way. Like, if they remaster this game, I would love for them to edit that one line from HAL where he goes, he kind of pays homage to Metal Gear Solid 1 where you have to switch the disc. He goes, Snake, you have to switch the disc. Oh wait, we're on PS3. He actually says PS3. There's an actual AirPod. There's a bunch of Sony things. Like, the product placement of this game. But yeah, I'm not going to talk further about Metal Gear Solid 4 because I literally don't even know what to talk about right now. I talked about enough things. I talked about what I needed to talk about. From there on, you just got to play it to understand me. This game is so long. This game is just so flawed. This game is just so non-flawed and so good. This game is so Metal Gear Solid. That is too much Metal Gear Solid. Now I'm gonna move on to a bittersweet game, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Now I call this a sweet little Metal Gear game. It's a little Metal Gear. It's a little gear. It's a little Gear Solid. Okay, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. This is a game that I could not finish, which is horrible, I know. This game is not bad. Matter of fact, this is a very, very good game. This switches the formula that you know from the usual Metal Gear. So this game is designed for you to be a monkey playing on a train while you're on your way to your job, right? So here's the thing, it actually does a very, very fine job of that. It kind of reduces the codec calls to like being a full-on screen after missions briefing of codec calls. The missions are no longer as long, like you literally have a to be continued thing introduced into this franchise. This is a whole new thing where you're instantly, the camera zooms in on Big Boss, which you're playing as Big Boss, which is so good about the game. You have to play this to fully understand Metal Gear Solid V. Trust me, you have to do. Please do. I'll get to the part where I said I didn't finish the game, by the way. So like this game tackles the whole PSP-ness around the world that was happening at the time. The whole PSP-ness feel of it. Now for real, Kojima understood the era that this game was releasing in, which he always does. He always uses the technology that he has. In Metal Gear Solid 1, it's something. In 2, it's something else. In 3, it's also something else. In Metal Gear Solid 4, it's also something else. In here is the PSP. I'm not gonna spoil the other games, but I'm gonna spoil this one. It's the fact that you have a PSP in your hand, the missions are shorter, the game design is built around that, it being a PSP game, you can even feel it so much. Like a mission just suddenly ends. As I just said, the camera zooms in on Big Boss as he's about to shoot at something, and then it says to be continued. You press the next mission, you go on to the next mission, then that mission starts. It is fully designed with the PSP in mind, which is something I truly value. Kojima makes best of the hardware that he has under hand. It's very, very good. But besides that, it also made perfect use of the Metal Gear Online, which at the time people were into. I'm not personally into online games, but you know how it is. Then we come into the gameplay, and it's honestly just such a nice gameplay loop. It's a simplistic Metal Gear Solid game. It is a very, very nice Metal Gear Solid game. You cannot crawl anymore, you can just crouch walk like Metal Gear Solid 4, which by the way, that's the thing Metal Gear Solid 4 introduced. And yeah, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker has a very, very nice gameplay loop. It has it introduces the new base building thing, but not as, you know, as spread out, as kind of in-depth as Metal Gear Solid 5, but it introduces it in such a nice way. It introduces the full-ton system where you have an incentive to not kill enemies right now. Like, put it in mind, this is the first game that came out that gives you more of an incentive to not kill enemies, more than just mission ranks and all that. Now you can full tone them with parachutes, they fly back to your human trafficking island, I suppose, and from there on you can just build your base, you can build your army little by little until you make it a big place. And like, there's an incentive even further to do that. You do that and you can unlock bigger weapons. You have to actually do that to gain some, strong weapons to fight the bosses of this game. The boss fights in this game and in Metal Gear Solid 4 are not the front page of everything as they were in the Metal Gear Solid 1, which has a lot of iconic ones, Metal Gear Solid 2, which has a lot of iconic ones, Metal Gear Solid 3, which has oh my god, a lot of iconic ones. Metal Gear Solid 4 just has generic ones, but it's just, it feeds into the theme of Metal Gear Solid 4. The theme of Metal Gear Solid 4 is like you're trying to bring something from the past into existence right now, but it just does not happen. But you would have to play the game from, to understand what I mean when I say this. But like, yeah, let's get back to Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. This one takes a simplistic approach at the bosses. You fight a little tank as a boss fight. You fight a whole giant robot a billion times and all that. You're gonna have to play the game. It's a very, very solid game if you have a PS3. Which gets me to the point on why I stopped playing the game. It had some very, very low horse shit frames per second when compared to every other Metal Gear that I would play. I played it on my PS Vita through the PSP emulator, and it just was not my type of game. I'm sure if I played it on the PS3, which I'm not gonna play it on the PS3, come on, I'm not paying $20 for that. Although I might one day. I have a sudden interest in Peace Walker after finishing Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain yesterday. So like, there's that, but like, that's the main reason that I didn't. And I mainly didn't care about the base building thing and all that, but then I started actually caring about it. But then the horrible frames came in. I cannot enjoy 20 frames, 25 frames per second, man. I'm just sorry. Especially with controls like the PSP controls where, surprise, you don't have the right analog. Now you might say, Zesty, you do have the right analog on the PS Vita, which like, yeah, but like, no. Like, it still is built around pressing square, triangle, circles, X to, kind of aim around the whole thing. I just don't like it. Like, if I was to play the game for a little bit right now, it's just jank galore. Like, the screen shake from just crouch walking is just something else. Like, look at me just taking out this, see? I hate the slow jankiness around everything. Like, I'm sure if I play this on the PS3, it's gonna be a hell of a game. Like, I can wake him up, there are CQCs in the game, there's a whole bunch of things. I don't know if you can see it from here, like, I can do this, CQC him. But like, the game is just so janky, there's a whole bunch of screen shake as I'm playing the game that is just, it makes it kind of unplayable for me on the PSP or on the PS Vita or whatever, wherever you play it. If play it on the PSP thingy, it's not gonna be a fun time. It's just not gonna be. I don't know. It wasn't a fun time for me. I'm sure it's gonna be fun on the PS3, but I may revisit it on the PSP, or I may just get it on the PS3. But I'm just not gonna put up with it. I didn't put up with it on the first walkthrough. But like, yeah, I just don't want my words to kind of change your view about a game, or maybe make you not want to try out Peace Walker. Please do. Maybe it will click with you. It just didn't click with me because of the jank galore that it is on the PSP. I don't like it on the PSP. I may revisit it on the PSP sometime soon, but I don't know when that time is gonna come. Maybe it'll come after this video is released, because I'm really interested in Peace Walker right now. It's the only game that I didn't finish, and I sat down and watched the story on YouTube, which gets me to the story. First of all, I did take the gameplay out of the way, which is a very, very nice game for a PSP game. It's fully a Metal Gear Solid game. It's a very nice full package of a game, if I'm being honest. Like, if I had only this as a Metal Gear option, I would play it. This is a really nice little Gear Solid, you know what I mean? Gets me to the narrative. The narrative is very, very good. It takes place 10 years after Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid 3. And so you kind of play as Big Boss again, and there's these amazing cutscenes that are just comic book looking, like, I don't know. They have a very, very distinct style from every other Metal Gear Solid before. It's very, very beautiful, very beautifully drawn. Sometimes they draw Snake as if he's a fucking lion full of hair, but like, I'm gonna be honest, it's just very, very beautiful. You're gonna have to play it yourself or watch it on YouTube yourself to fully know what I mean with this. It looks very, very good as like an alternative type of cutscene than that of the other Metal Gear Solids. You know, since they have to kind of cut budget for this one, I believe PSP games weren't being developed with the most amount of money as like other games and all that. The story is very, very good. I have checked out the story. I'm not gonna spoil a lot of things, but it kind of clings on to what Metal Gear Solid 3 did a lot. It kind of clings onto it a lot, but it kind of fits the theme in here. It's supposed to cling onto it a lot. You're gonna have to play through Metal Gear Solid 3 and then this one to fully understand what I mean by it clings onto it a lot. The story is very, very good. It introduces new characters that really have a vital, you know, spot in the story for Metal Gear. They even have a very important spot for Metal Gear Solid 5 and all that. You have to play this game to kind of get the gist of Metal Gear Solid V, Ground Zeroes, and the Phantom Pain. Like, that's all that I'm gonna have to say about Peace Walker. This instantly moves me on to Metal Gear Solid V, Ground Zeroes, and the Phantom Pain. So, Ground Zeroes is like, you know, there's something in Metal Gear Solid 3 called the Virtuous Mission. You start as a prologue, then after a little while, you kind of play the game, right? The official game starts up. Think of it as God of War. For you viewers on my channel, you know God of War 2 and 3, for example, even God of War 1, you know the formula. You start kind of very hype and all that, then it kind of calms down after a bit. You get into a whole section where the game opens up, introduces new enemies, introduces every kind of game mechanic and all that. This is the same. So, in Snake Eater, there's a Virtuous Mission that is kind of the prologue. Then after that, a whole long lore dump happens. Then the official game begins. Way too deep. Ground Zeroes is basically that to the Phantom Pain, but like, there's a difference here. So Konami, the cunts they are, they kind of pushed Kojima to get the Phantom Pain out. The game is kind of unfinished, but I didn't feel like it was unfinished. I feel like it was over-finished, if you know what I mean. I'll get to the Phantom Pain in a minute. Ground Zeroes is basically a prototype of the Phantom Pain. It has every single mechanic other than a few from the Phantom Pain. Obviously, because the Phantom Pain is like an open-world stealth, which is very, very well made, but like, also very horribly made. Ground Zeroes is the game that you have to play, of course, after Peace Walker. Do not jump instantly into the Phantom Pain. What kind of idiot are you if you do that? You have to play the Ground Zeroes prologue missions, and it's a very short game, even for the price. Like, the price is insane, but like, I didn't suffer the price at the time, you know. Like, I bought it right now with the Phantom Pain, and it was a very nice discount. I had to buy it. I instantly bought it at the time and all that. Anyways, you play Ground Zeroes, and it's just a prologue. It's a very short mission, like, not a very short mission. It's one fully packed mission. It has a lot of intricate, you know, in and outs and all that. It is the full Metal Gear world in the best of ways ever. It has a very nice codec that it introduces, very nice binoculars that it introduces, gameplay mechanics that it introduces. It is very, very good of a mission, right? But like, then Phantom Pain comes in and it introduces some more mechanics, deeper gameplay, even more stuff that I'll get to in a second. But like, Ground Zeroes is such a nicely packed game that feels like change. The moment you load up the game, you feel like everything has changed. And it's like, it's the thing with the structure as well. It's like they learned their lesson from Metal Gear Solid 4. Billions of cutscenes, right? Ground Zeroes comes in, way too little of cutscenes. It has way more gameplay than cutscenes. And then the Phantom Pain comes in, and it not just doubles, not triple, it quadruples on that. You saw a lot of cutscenes in 4, huh? You hated that, huh? Gameplay front and center. Front and center and even back. Gameplay is everywhere in the Phantom Pain. But let's go back to the Ground Zeroes. I'm sorry I'm edging you so much about the Phantom Pain. Ground Zeroes feels like change. It feels like change in the setting. It feels like change in the way the game works. It's much more smoother than every other Metal Gear that you've played before. Like going from crouch walk to prone walking to crawling is the smoothest. It's the smoothest thing in the world. Like you've never seen such smoothness in like ever. And the thing about Ground Zeroes is that it's a very nice kind of natural transition from the old Metal Gear engine to the new Metal Gear engine, which is still the Fox engine, but like the advancements they had. It's a very nice transition from these old games, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, to Ground Zeroes to slowly ease you into the Phantom Pain, which is a whole different world of Metal Gear. It's like, it's so good. But like at the same time, it's lacking a lot of things from the Phantom Pain that it kind of separates the two. This is what I mean when I say it kind of is a very nice bridge between the old Metal Gear world and the new Metal Gear Phantom Pain world. And the theme of change just keeps on happening. First of all, the biggest thing ever, which is still like a cardinal sin, I believe, replacing the voice actor of Snake from all the other prior Metal Gear Solid games. I forgot his name. I don't know. I forgot his name, but like, you know him. You know his voice. Raiden, how's your point going across my fucking penis going up your mom's? That guy basically. I don't know why I still impersonate his sound and all that. I don't really sound like Snake, but I would love to try. They took that voice. That voice actor is no longer in the game. They didn't even tell him. It's basically the TC Carson Kratos situation that happened for God of War 4. Very disrespectful. That guy is basically my Snake, you sons of bitches. What? Snake, you sons of bitches? By the time I reach the end of the Phantom Pain, I get the voice actor change. But like, there was still something they could have done and all that, but I'm not gonna spoil anything I really want to spoil. I'm edging you so much, but you have to go ahead and play it yourself. It feels weird reviewing games that are like decades and decades and years old, but like, and worrying about spoilers and all that, but I'm still not gonna spoil. I'm just gonna talk about what I love so much about the games, and it's the story and gameplay. Bada boom, I guess. So yeah, that's the Ground Zeroes experience. It just feels like change. You're into a new world. It's futuristic again and all that in all the weird ways, even though it's 1974. It follows Peace Walker right after, but like, yeah, it feels like change, especially with the voice actor and all that. And it's a very short game. It's literally a prologue to the game that comes after. That's why I'm just gonna instantly jump to the game that came after. Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I never expected myself to be like this when experiencing this game. I never thought Zesty would ever get tired of gaming in a game. So I got used to the narrative on Metal Gear, right? I got used to playing Metal Gear games. This is how the story structure goes. This is usually how it goes. You fight a boss here and there. Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain comes in and kicks all of that out of the fucking conversation and just goes with its own way of presenting the story. The game is basically built around gameplay. It is the same gameplay of Peace Walker, but expanded to all hell. You're building Mother Base, your base that you have to build and all that. It's a human trafficking island, let's be honest. So yeah, you have the same gameplay loop as Peace Walker, where you take out enemies, you Fulton them with a parachute back to your base, and then someone in that base kinda, it makes the troops work for you and all that from there on. Gaining a bigger base, you can make bigger equipment, stronger armor, stronger weapons, stronger everything, stronger helicopters, stronger everything. Metal Gear Solid 5 came in and used the last card that game devs use when they don't know where to go. The open world. They actually used that card and the dog card as well. You know when a game dev just doesn't know what to do and they introduce a pet into their games? Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain goes ahead and does that and the open world. But like, it does it, I don't know how to describe it. Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain has a lot of repetitive missions. I'm just gonna come out here flat out and say it. It has a lot of repetitive missions while not having nearly as much cutscenes as any other Metal Gear before it. The most of the story dumps that happen on tapes that you can listen to while playing the game, which is a very nice mechanic. You can listen to these tapes as you're playing the games. And there's some very, very interesting voice acting in these tapes. Like Kaz talking as if it's his last breath for every fucking conversation he has. He just aggressively breathes into the mic. Snake, I've heard. Man, why did these children do us like this? These fucking children, man. These black kids. Just Snake. You're gonna have to just report back to Mother Base. We're gonna have to talk about that. Ah, fuck. I'm having a headache. I'm having a headache for talking like this, but like that's just a Metal Gear Solid V and how someone talks to boss through these tapes and all that, through codec calls and all that. The majority of the story is dumped onto you with the tapes, so you have to listen to the tapes to understand the majority, like I believe 80% of the story, not 80, 60% of the story through these tapes that you have to listen to. You can listen to them and just sit down on the menu, or you can listen to them while you're doing open world or gameplay or mission stuff as well. You can listen to them at any time you want. There are cutscenes in the game, but they're so few and far between. Like I even forget how many. I doubt there's an hour of cutscenes worth in this game. An hour, I swear, an hour. When you compare that to literally any other Metal Gear before it, it's just a humongous change. This game puts gameplay front and center, which is something I highly value, but like it got way too repetitive even for me, a guy who's a gamey kind of guy. I just want a game in every game I want. I want to play games as much as I want. I want to game in my game so much, which is something I highly value about Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain right now on a replay walkthrough. But on a first walkthrough, it kind of got way too repetitive. The missions kept getting repetitive instead of just taking me to the fucking point. I would go through every 5 to 6 minutes missions to get into a story jump. That's kind of bad design, I would say. It's kind of over designed rather than they didn't let Kojima finish it, which is, it does hold truth. You gotta play the story yourself, you gotta play the game yourself for, you know, to get the answer for that. But like, I'm gonna be honest, that does feel true. There are some kind of plot points in the story that they just don't even see a whole resolution. They don't see a finish. They don't see an end. They just don't. Not even with the DLC. They don't see a finish just to their storyline, which is weird. I don't know why they went with this type of route for the story pacing and all that. Like I kind of get it as well. Even Zig said so himself. He was like, this feeds into what the game is going for. The game is called The Phantom Pain, and you'll find out the Phantom Pain as you're playing Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. And by the end of the game, you kind of realize why the whole game design was this way, which is a thing Metal Gear Solid 2 does as well. It's a thing Metal Gear Solid 4 does as well. It's a thing prevalent in Metal Gear where you just, you know, there's a message that Kojima is hiding throughout the game, then by the end of the game it kind of gets exposed for yourself. This game does the same thing, and I truly love it. It now gets me to talk about the story itself, and not just the horrible pacing of it. It gets me to talk about the story itself, and I fucking love it. I love the story. I did just say that it does not finish some plot threads here and there and all that, but what I wanted to get finished actually got finished, and it kind of showed me why things are the way they are. I don't want to spoil things, okay? But like, you're playing as Big Boss, and it's just so good. You're playing as Big Boss and all that. Then at the end, there's the twist. Then at the end, you get to know that. Then at the end, you get to know... Like, the end, you have to make it to the end of Metal Gear Solid The Phantom Pain to fully appreciate why it's designed this way. Why the missions are repetitive. Why the story is no longer presented the same way it was throughout the whole 5-6 games that came out before it. The moment you get to the end of this game, you finish it. You find out about the secret, the truth. That's the name of the mission. The truth. The man who sold the world. You'll know how he sold the world by the end, man. It's just, oh my god. Metal Gear Solid 5. I finished it yesterday. This might be my honeymoon phase with the game. That's why I appreciate the ending so much. But like, I don't imagine myself hating this game's story at all. It just presents the story in the best of ways. There are some side stuff here and there with some side villains here and there. It's just a lot of things are connected into this game, and this game truly does feel like it connects everyone that I knew from Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, and all that. It just gets you through the backstory of all these people and how they got to be the way they are in Metal Gear Solid 1, or maybe 2, or maybe even 3. Like, you never even know what goes on in this game, or even hell, even Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 4 started this whole debacle. It kind of made the whole dev team go through this phase that they had to go through, where they had to make all these games to justify what happened in Metal Gear Solid 4, but it still paid off in my opinion. It was very good. I love the story of this game so much. I love how they went with it. I hate the approach, the presentation and all that on my first walkthrough and all that, but like right now finishing it, I now know why it went that way, why it must have been that way. Hell, why the voice actor changed. Believe it or not, this is a choice that I hated so much, but now I appreciate it. I appreciate them. I hate the shitty way they did it, but I appreciate the voice actor change. I fucking love the old voice actor. Like, Snake, that's my name. I know you love me. He probably doesn't talk with that much bravado, but you know. Like, I appreciate even that happening the moment I made it to the end of Metal Gear Solid 5. You're gonna have to be patient. You're gonna have to be patient. You're gonna have to be patient. I kept on bitching about this game's length the entire time with my friends and all that, with Zig and all that. That's because the nature of the game, it's open world and all that. I hate open worlds. Okay, I hate open worlds, but there are some exceptions that make it in. Like Batman Arkham Knight, like Metal Gear Solid 5. There are some other exceptions too, like, you know, main grand open worlds, like Red Dead Redemption 2, some GTA games, and, you know, some semi-open world like God of War 4 and Ragnarok as well. I don't really care. I mainly prefer linear games. This is an open world game. The nature of open world games is that they have to be repetitive. But this one is repetitive for whole other reasons. It's repetitive because of the phantom pain. You'll get to the end, you'll realize why everything is the way that it is. The story presentation, the music presentation. Oh my god, the music of the Phantom Pain when I first got into it. I've been hearing this fucking shit ever since my whole time growing up. You know Metal Gear, okay? Even if you don't play it. You heard the stone. I'm fucking telling you, this shit never gets old, man. The goofiness of Metal Gear stays in this game, but just lowered way too much. I say the goofiness is at a peak with Metal Gear Solid 4. In Metal Gear Solid 4, you see some weirdness. Hell, have you seen how he crawls in the game? I wish I had footage on the screen right now, but you just have to stare at my weird-ass face the whole video. Metal Gear Solid 5. This story is just so good. You just have to put up with the repetitiveness of everything. You have to put up with it until later on you start getting way too engaged with the story. You start getting way too engaged with the story, way too engaged, and you slow down, back down, you slow down again and again and again. You go to the whole fucking iceberg, then it rises back up again, again. Very good. I can't describe it. I love it very much. I love how the story concluded. I don't really care about what everyone else says, but I do understand where they're coming from when they talk about the game not being finished. But yeah, that's my piece about the story. Now I'm gonna talk shortly about the gameplay. I actually am kidding you, and this is a huge psych. I'm not gonna talk about the gameplay. I'm actually gonna shortly talk about the gameplay. This is the most deep Metal Gear Solid ever, thanks to the open world. See, I can't hate the open world, because it introduces like 50 new things into the game. The base building, the helicopter thing, the air support, the smoke air support, the buddies that you can use with you. You can use a dog, you can use a something else, you can use a someone else, you can use a horse as a buddy. You can ride vehicles from one place to another. You can be on your chopper. You can use a whole bunch of millions of things that you built in your base. In this open world, the cardboard box is still in this game, better than ever. Mechanics get introduced as you go on the game. There's a prosthetic arm that you use that you can use it for billions of things, like making Snake run like a fucking... He runs like a super soldier in this game. It's unfair. I'm getting way too excited and I want to play it as I'm talking about it. He runs like a super soldier in this game. So fucking fast, so powerful, so intricate with every step. So video gamey. I fucking love this game so much. I cannot appreciate it anymore. The ways you approach an encounter, the ways you approach some missions, other than some that have specific requirements, you know, like maybe going stealth only, like the prior Metal Gear Solid's hardest difficulties. Or, you know, there are missions where you start, they're called subsistence missions, where you start with nothing at all, and you have to take on this base while you take on equipment as you go along your way. Very good. You have some other missions that are like, they're called extreme missions. They are very hard missions. And I've done them all, and I love them all, and I can't wait to replay them all. I have said something throughout my playthrough of Metal Gear Solid 5, and it's that it's so repetitive, it's open world, I'm not gonna replay it, but now it's the whole opposite. It is the whole opposite. Because when I came out of this game, I felt like the story fulfilled me, and the gameplay throughout kept on being so amazing. Especially when you make it... Okay, I'm gonna say this, you know, this is not gonna be a spoiler. You start the game in Afghanistan, okay? Now, this level of Afghanistan is long, but it has its reasons why it's long. When you make it to the end, you'll come to find out why it's so long and all that. But then you go to Africa. which is very, very good to change places like that in your Metal Gear Solid 5 game. You're playing as Big Boss. And by the way, to answer the question from now on, which one I prefer playing, Solid Snake or Big Boss? I'm just gonna say Big Boss, okay? Big Boss is a lot more human. Big Boss is just, the era of Big Boss is a lot more of a thing that I appreciate than Solid Snake. But I love Solid Snake so much. He's such a badass. He fucking does a lot of things in 1, in 2, in 4, in MG. And, you know, there are 2 Metal Gear games that I haven't played, the original MSX games, but I doubt I'll ever play them, but you know how it is. Anyways, back to my point. By the time I came out of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, I was fulfilled both in the story-wise and in the gameplay. So yeah, I was talking about Africa and how you make it there. The moment you make it to Africa, the game opens up. The moment you make it there, the setting is so beautiful. Oh my god, and it has a lot to do with the gameplay mechanics, and I'm being overwhelmed right now. I don't know what to talk about. Whether to talk about the sandstorms approaching or the rain raining and making the guards not being able to look so much. The full tones you can use, the things you can full tone. You can full tone a whole entire car. A gigantic vehicle, a truck. You can just attach a balloon to it and it just flies back to your base. This game! The gameplay of this game just opens up hugely the moment you make it to Africa. Same with the narrative as well. It's like the stealth in this game, the action in this game. And here's my advice for you if you're willing to play Metal Gear Solid 5. Please experiment with everything and try different approaches other than stealth. This is not just purely a stealth game. That's what I did up until the very last ending stretch. And when I made it to the ending stretch where I knew like 2 to 3 or 4 hours were left, I was like, man, I don't want to finish this game. Like the whole entire game, I was like, I just want this game to end. I just want this game to end. Then I made it to like the ending stretch where I knew it was the ending stretch. And I was like, man, I don't want it to end now. Because I was having all these different sorts of approaches. I always had different approaches. But I never went beyond the stealth. I advise you, go all out in some segments. Call the helicopter support. Get a shotgun. Get an RPG for a chopper support that the enemy might have. Fucking go ham sometimes. Approach missions in all the lovely ways you can approach them, because this game, it incentivizes creativity. It just kind of promotes creativity. You can fucking beat a boss fight by dropping crates of ammo on top of his head. You can just keep on doing that. That's one example out of many. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I fucking love it very, very much. And now that I finally talked about everything, I talked about everything I love about all these games, but I'm sure there's just a whole world that I've left out about things that I love about these games and all that. Now, in typical extreme gameplays, Nemean Zestus zesty fashion, top 5 Metal Gear Solid games based on my preference. So coming in at number 1, we have Snake Eater. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, for a lot of reasons that I discussed in this video. Coming in at number 2, we have Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain, which I'm gonna include Ground Zeroes with it as well. You know what? Metal Gear Solid 5 is my second favorite Metal Gear Solid of all time. It's one of my favorite games of all time at this point. I never thought an open world would get this high. An open world as high as the open world of Arkham Knight. I rarely value open worlds in video games, but this is a case where I have to do, just like Spider-Man and Arkham games. But like, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5 is my second favorite Metal Gear game. At number 3, we have Metal Gear Solid 2. That one just has a lot of things upgraded from the first game. I talked about it all in this video. At number 4, we have Metal Gear Solid 1. The novelty, the fucking mechanics, the gameplay, the bosses, the encounters, the story, the codec. What did I not talk about in this video? Metal Gear Solid 1 takes the number 4 spot. Number 5, we have Metal Gear Solid 4. Because I fucking love it. And I don't know why. I'm gonna have to replay it to fully give a full-on opinion about Metal Gear Solid 4, but that's what I feel about it. Metal Gear Solid 4 takes the 5th spot. And with that, we reach the end of the video, finally. This is a 1 hour and 20 minutes video. Oh my god. An hour and 20 minutes of me just talking about Metal Gear was not something I expected to do ever in my life, but here we are. So guys, thank you very much for tuning in to this video. I hope you guys enjoyed just me talking about Metal Gear. An hour and a half almost of me talking about Metal Gear. I never expected to love this franchise so much. Then of course there's Metal Gear Rising, which is a whole different subject. But like, I love that one so much as well. It's one of my favorite games of all time as well. Like, it's getting in the realm of how much I love God of War 1 and 2. So that says a lot for you. And of course, definitely playing Metal Gears 1, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, and V enhance my walkthrough like none other for Metal Gear Rising, which you should do as well. Trust me. Anyways, this is where we reach the end of the video. I don't feel like talking anymore. I really want to go ahead and eat like an alligator right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching this video of me just talking to all fucking hell about Metal Gear. This is my second favorite franchise right now. It's really up there in the realms of God of War, Resident Evil, and Devil May Cry for me at this point. This franchise, man, it's just insane. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself as you watched this video. It has been your Extreme Gamers SD. Peace. Peace.